Welcome back to Inspiring Stories. In a few minutes, I'm going to have Jake Isham come on the show. But while you're gathering up those last minute drinks, snacks, and getting comfortable in your seat so that you can listen to what Jake has to say, why don't we tell you a little bit about who Jake is? Jake is a filmmaker turned brand strategist and a creative director who helps founders and entrepreneurs turn their expertise into authority through powerful storytelling. Over the past decade, Jake has worked with more than 150 entrepreneurs and companies, including Grant Cardone, Callaway, 511 Tactical, and Travis Matthew, creating content that generates over 1 billion in views online. Jake focuses on blending his background in filmmaking with deep marketing strategy, with creating digital shows and social media content for CEOs and entrepreneurs to cut through the noise by crafting content that builds trust, drives visibility, and creates a true omnipresence across platforms. Whether scaling a founder-led brand or launching a thought leadership show, Jake brings unique, creative lens to and proven playbooks that turn storytelling into growth. So, finish gathering up those last-minute items so that you can be comfortable in your seat, because when we come back, I'll have Jake with me. So, Jake, welcome to the show. You're a great filmmaker and a marketing fireball.
I appreciate that. I like that modifier, fireball. I haven't had that one before, but so I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is a lot of entrepreneurs, especially those who are listening to us, they need that. Not just a spark, but they need that burst of fire to get the rockets going so that they can truly launch, right?
Amen.
So tell us a little bit about how you actually got started in film and what keeps you going.
So I'm very fortunate to have two parents who are both artists and working artists, and so the idea of having a career as an artist was obvious, was in the sense of like, it was never like, whoa, go get a real job, because that was my parents' real job. So I was very much encouraged from a young age, and I was so fortunate to be pushed and encouraged tremendously to be an artist. And so I feel like almost you could say the stereotypical LA kid, where I grew up acting, I grew up doing music, did the piano lessons, grew up being on stage. And so I my first love was very much performing and being an actor.
Yeah.
And then had the agent, had the manager, was going to the acting classes, and I was getting more auditions for myself by self submissions than my agent and manager. And then, but was waiting for callbacks, was not booking as much as I would like. And so 16-year-old pretentious Jake was like, well, I'm just going to write and direct all my own things then. And so I got into directing, and I went to a camp, New York Film Academy, when it was just starting out. They had an acting intensive over the summer. I went to it, loved it. And it was awesome because we got to work on the backlots of Universal. We got to actually, that was where our camp was. And so it was such an amazing exposure. I then went back the next year for their directing intensive, and so I got to shoot on 16 millimeter film at the age of 17 on the backlots of Universal. I mean, for anybody who knows film, like that is a dream. Like I was living the dream at 17 years old. And as an actor, I was doing the same thing, but on the acting side at 16. And so I just got addicted. It was so much fun. I then ended up going to Chapman University. I picked it because I got to make 3 films my first semester freshman year, which for those who don't know about film school, you're lucky to direct a film and touch a camera until your junior or even senior year. Like USC, to my knowledge, or at least when I was applying, you got into a lottery. Like if you went for being a director, you'd get into a lottery to potentially direct. Even though you're paying ungodly amount of money to go, like you don't make movies. So I was very fortunate at Chapman to get pushed to make movies consistently. And by my senior year, I completely forgotten that I even wanted to be an actor. that was even remotely even a pipe dream of mine. And from there, it was always just that was the birth of the whole thing, and started and fell in love with just the art of directing.
And that is a true art. I will say this about, because I've loved movies since I don't know how young I was. Movies were the thing for me, right? And it is, you take somebody's book or script, as it were, right, and you interpret it through your eyes, how you see it, how you vision it. So, I mean, that's what makes directing an art. Then each person who's acting in it is doing the same thing. So you get all that added together. And if everybody connects, and it's like that's where your magic is, right? Everybody connects and everybody understands. Hey, I see that character that way. I see this. I see, you know.
And there's so many departments and divisions that go into filmmaking. And I was very fortunate because of the extensive background I had throughout the arts, from my acting, but also I had an entire career in music that I rarely talk about, that I stopped. Like I ran a recording studio. I produced several albums and performed in front of thousands of people, again, all before the age of 20. And all of that helped in terms of, and continues to help and serve me as a director, that I can talk to a music department, I can talk to production design, and I can talk to editors, I can talk to like every single department of a film is creative. And so it's a lot as a director, where you're the final creative, final sign off on all positions. And so it's a lot of fun, but being able to work with all the artists creatively and push them to create their best work.
Yeah, yeah. In some respects, I imagine it's like being a coach. That getting your team to produce the what they're supposed to.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood
level, right?
Yeah, Clint Eastwood said, has a great line where he says, I think it was 95% of directing is casting. You just cast the right people, your job is done. And I look at that even further, and it means it in the same respect as you're casting not only your cast, your actors, but you're also casting all the roles, your director of photography, your editor, your production designer, your producer, like your team, you're casting, you're hiring. And it lays the same way in business, to transition for a second, where as a CEO, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, 95% of your job is just hiring the right person. If you just hire the right person, you can step back because they got it. They are the right person. And the right person makes your job easy and makes you look good. Yeah. Like I always laugh when I hear directors for myself. And again, I'm not nearly at the level of the top directors in the industry, but I always laugh when I hear directors, or I get whatever, is when I see directors sitting with their editors full time. It's like, you hired the editor to edit. Let the editor do their job, then come in and finalize it. The same way, you're not going to sit with your marketing director and go, okay, great, what exactly we do? Like, let the marketing director do the marketing director's job. Let your sales guy do the sales guy job. Now, if they're not doing their job well, step in.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's exactly it. I know for ourselves, when we're actually doing a documentary, that um, I edited the story together, and then one of my other partners watches it and then cuts it into ribbons and says, "Put it back together again." And he keeps making me put it back together again. And there was one time we were like literally less than 12 hours away from release to film festivals, and he had me re-editing this thing. And then when I finally got it out to him that one last time, he said, "I cried. That was it. That
Wow.
was the one we wanted." And that's what he did. And as a director, um, that's what you're trying to get your people to do, to get that emotional effect to come out in the work, right?
Yeah, there's a definition of art that I love, which is the quality of communication. So you could say better art is a higher quality of communication, and it impacts more. And uh, you know, and to the same point where, this is being done at the top level. I heard a story of Chris McQuarrie and Tom Cruise on the most recent Mission Impossible, that they finished the edit 12 hours before the premiere. That literally no one had seen the edit until the final movie, until the actual premiere of the movie, which is insane to think about.
So
So, it's being done at the top level.
yeah. But then again, it happens to make sure that best work is out there, right?
Yeah.
So you you have this other driving force where we said about you being that marketing fireball. Um, how does all that translate into you um, driving views and getting attention, and that the as we put it in your intro, that omnipresence thing? How does all that translate into that
So I realized, like, okay, how do I make money doing this? After film school, you could say, continue on my journey. After film school, I was like, well, all right, what do I do now? And my youngest brother, who's 5 years younger than me, was in college, and he started a side hustle on the weekends shooting videos. Except he didn't have any skills, official training as a videographer, but he was making close to $90,000 working on the weekends, part time, shooting videos with his camera on auto. And I'm there, the broke, starving artist, cliche. Leave film school, and I'm like, well, that piece of paper is, going to keep me warm for about 2 minutes before it burns up, and that's about it. And I realized, what is the differentiator between him and I? It's not particularly skills. I have more skills, but he was a business major. And that's when I really started to kind of nail down, oh, I need to be an entrepreneur. And I really realized at that moment, like, all artists are entrepreneurs. The best artists are entrepreneurs. They understand sales, they understand marketing, they understand having a great product. Like, that's what comes down to a great business. And so I started, okay, great. The basic, simple way of starting a business is, well, what problem do I solve for people? The problem I want to solve for people is shooting videos for them. So I took basically, and then again, having parents who are artists, my dad being my first and biggest mentor, his advice was keep a camera in your hand, basically, which is what he did very successfully growing up, which he was a trumpet player, and he was like, did any job that paid him to play trumpet. And so I did the same thing, took any job that kept a camera in my hand. So I did product photography, social media, corporate, like you kind of name it. It was less what I enjoyed and more what paid the bills. And so for many years, jumped around and continued to just do anything that kept a camera in my hand. And that's when I just learned more and more skills. And another mentor of mine talks about like he's like, you got to stack skills. Like if you're not expanding, it's because there's some skill you're lacking. So I learned sales, I learned marketing, and I got better at producing the product for them. You know, I shot a lot of product photography and I tried to be creative, realizing that's not what they want. They want high converting photos. So I went, oh, another big lesson was if I can make products, if my service can make my clients more money, they're going to hire me more. Like it sounds obvious, but that was a hard lesson to learn. So why am I not getting referrals? And why am I not getting people to re-sign? Well, it's because my product is not making them money. It's me. It's scratching a creative itch, which is great. But if it's not making them money, there's no reason to hire me. So it's the balance of that, especially as a creative. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. And then to continue to marry the creative itch with the business. And so I'll go with on and off. I'm going off on my own story. So I'm probably jumping into questions that you might want to ask. But you know, so marrying that creative itch constantly. So I have services that are more creative, but I've been able to figure out how can it help make me happy as an entrepreneur and as an artist, but also make my clients very happy and make them more money. Additionally, I then go off on my own creative itches on the outside of work. And like recently last year or this year, I made 14 short films in 4 months. So there's still very much that working on both sides at all times because they only help on all at all.
Well, there are some other interesting. What is there like a Jake secret sauce or a Jake process that you apply these things to so that they actually make your clients money?
So there's a couple things. First, there's this kind of just fundamental idea because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs building their personal brand. Like that's kind of a niche that I've really found and kind of gravitated towards that been able to have some really good success in and I enjoy it and it's a lot of fun. And so you could say the secret sauce, which is the silliest thing, but it's the thing that I have to remind all of my clients, especially because I work with a lot of people who are just starting to build their personal brand. They reach out to me because anybody can do this now. Don't have my phone's right here. You know, all you need is this. You just need a phone. You can just create content and just be like, hey guys, what's up? So, you know, here, like, we don't need anything crazy expensive, but people hire me because they want help with it. They want that personal trainer. What do I say? How do I say it? Where do I look? What gear do I like? It takes them out of analysis paralysis and they just go, great, handhold me to the finish line. And so the things that I push them to say is the obvious things, but realize because it's so obvious to you, because you've been doing it for so long, that's the secret sauce that people don't realize, that people who want to learn and want to work with you need to know. The same way if I were to ask you, you know, about making documentaries, right? We wanted to hire you to make documentaries, or I'm looking to get somebody to hire about documentary. The very simple, obvious things to you, because you've done so many of them, are the things that I probably want to know. That's why you have FAQs, frequently asked questions, because everybody asks these questions. So it's that type of data that if you just start giving away for free, no matter the industry, like people are not going to do the action. They want to know that you know it, because people do business with people they know and trust. How do you build trust? You just demonstrate that you have the knowledge. So talk about case studies, talk about past work, talk about show you doing the work, talk about the lessons learned over the years of doing it. Like it's obvious, it's simple, Like that is the secret sauce. And then it's just the continuation of doing it. The same way you would go to the gym. You just do it more and more and more, you're gonna get the results.
Right, right, right. And that's the whole thing is you talk about frequently asked questions. The key word there is frequent. You know, you you build that up, and of course, and the rate video just stating the absolute, like you said, the obvious, right? So, but you have, I would imagine that because there's story behind this, right? People love hearing a good story. So, how do you work that all together so that it produces a story that people are going to want to follow and further build that trust with?
So I look at storytelling in content in two different ways. One is structure, which is basic storytelling, but then you also have your stories. And so there's these great two angles of it, and I can go into both. Well, and first in the story structure, where you have a beginning, middle, and end. It's how we tell every story. And in marketing, you have a hook, content, and either call to action or a close. And it's a very simple structure, or all storytelling is that structure. And so if you were to start creating content, I highly recommend, more than anything, is to spend 60 to 80% of your time, if not even 90% of your time, focused on the hook, that first 3 seconds. Because in our digital age where we're just swiping, 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 you have that first sentence, that first 3 seconds to capture them. Now, that could be with what you say, it could be with what you do, it could be what's in the background, it could be with what you're wearing, it could be, or the combination of two or more. A really simple, silly thing that I help coach my clients is make sure you say that sentence cleanly and quickly. So, for example, if you say, here are 3 things that you need to know about documentary filmmaking, instead of, these are the 3 things that go wrong in documentary filmmaking that you need to know. You can say, yes, that took is, it's a little bit more spicy, a little bit more controversial of a hook. It's a little bit more words, but said it a little bit quicker, a little bit more energy. That's why you have a lot of that social media kind of, hey guys, what's up? This is what we're doing. And I'm not saying, everyone has to do that, but do it in your own way. And then you could say the second large picture is on storytelling. I feel storytelling is such a valuable tool because they're only your stories. As you've noticed, a couple of the stories I've told in this podcast about how my brother was making more money than me and I had to figure it out. And I figured out why. It's because he was a business major. My dad telling me to, get paid to practice, keep a camera in my hand. These different stories aren't my stories to tell. They're the reasons why I learned these lessons. We learn lessons through storytelling. Hey, don't do this because you will get eaten by a crocodile if you go this way. Here's the story, do this and you'll make a lot of money. That's where books come from. Aesop fables, like we all learn through storytelling. So I find it such a valuable tool that if you take a second, being on podcasts is a fantastic way because you start learning, oh, what are my stories that I'm going to tell? I tell my brother's story, arguably every podcast I'm on, because it was the reason and the way I got into entrepreneurship. I never planned on running a business. I never planned on being a marketer. But because I saw my brother making $90,000 a year at 20 years old, part-time, without the skill set that I had, I went, oh, what is the missing piece? And because that story is my story, it's not your story. Nobody else can tell that story. But you can now share that story with other people because I told you that story. And it could potentially help another artist that you talk to going, hey, I talked to this guy, Jake. This is his story. Maybe it'll help you to learn a little bit more that you need to take more responsibility as an entrepreneur.
That's the power of story.
Exactly. And so, I mean, another story about the power of story. I have a client who is a ex music executive, was one of the top executives at one of the biggest record labels, and she now has written a book and is starting to do speaking. And we did a video about how she was kind of the instrumental key to put the players together to write the song "Genie in a Bottle," and then got that to Christina Aguilera. 16-year-old Christina Aguilera when she was just coming out, which was her breakout song, you know, multi platinum, etc. And I'm telling that story to another client of mine, and they're like, "Oh my God, I never knew about this." I'm like, "Yeah, because it's my client's story. Like, it's her story to tell. But nobody else can tell that story. It's only hers." And so all of your experiences, good, bad, ugly, traumatic, amazing, they're your stories to tell. And only your stories. Nobody else can tell that story unless you tell that story. So I constantly tell stories of my mentors, tell stories of people that I admire, only because they shared those stories in the first place. So I'm a big proponent of sharing your stories, sharing your lessons, because you can help inspire and educate others.
There's that catch term out there, authenticity. I'm stumbling over the word, but you know what I'm
Authenticity.
Yes.
Being authentic.
Being authentic with people. And that is part of your story because you're telling your story and not trying to tell someone else's story.
Yeah. And I was on a podcast earlier and they were talking about AI. And Jake, do you think AI is going to take over your job as a content creator with the rise of Sora, the rise of, you know, Nano Banana, whatever it is with Google and all of that jazz? And I went, I don't think so, because we're going to strive for human connections more than ever. You know, COVID really showed us that we really want human connections, that we really, you know, are a group. And if you look at the rise of who are the biggest, you could say, internet celebrities, or just even celebrities these days, are not the traditional Hollywood celebrities. You look at the election, where it's the pundits on the news is not the celebrities that they used to be. It's not even, and it's growing even more to the standpoint of it's not even YouTubers, but it's live streamers. It's you're getting to live with real people. You're seeing how people really live. Like YouTubers are right there, and then it's even, and it really goes to show it's like we are striving for human connection. You see the rise of podcasts because you're seeing actual conversations like this. And so more than ever, you know, human connection is so valuable, and being authentic and being you, because especially in business, people do business with people they know and trust. It's always going to be that way.
People are always going to want to strive for not just the surface truth, but that deep underlying truth. And if you're sitting there trying to tell someone else's story that you just heard from a third or fourth party, it's never going to ring, right?
Yeah. A mentor of mine, Alex Hermosi, I love what he says in terms of, it's like, okay, well, I don't know what stories to tell. I don't have any stories. Well, do epic shit, talk about it. Like, if you don't have stories to tell, well, go do something, go create something, go experience life to have a story to tell. I mean, you look at you with making documentaries. If they weren't interesting, you wouldn't make a documentary about them, right? If they didn't have something valuable to share and a story that had to be told, you wouldn't make a documentary about them. So I tell this always to every entrepreneur who I especially start working with, is like, you have epic stories, but to you, they're just your life. So you're like, is that really that epic? Like the woman that I was talking to, again, that client who did the Christina Aguilera, she's like, yeah, okay. I have stories I guess I could tell about Cher and about this artist. I was like, are you kidding me? These are epic, but they were just her life. So she's like, I don't know. This is whatever. Like, and so you don't realize how cool your stories are until you start sharing them, and how much a little story can completely impact one person. There was, well, to share again somebody else's story. There was this author. I want to make sure I don't butcher it, but just the power of what one story can impact. There was an author who wrote a book. It was a children's book. And okay, I have it. So there was an author who wrote a children's book, and it sold millions and millions of copies and very, very successful. And he does a book signing one day. He's going through signing books, and a gentleman comes up and is like, sir, thank you so much for writing this book. And he's like, oh, of course, who do I make it? No, he's like, no. Thank you so much for writing this book. Because of your book, I chose not to take my life. And the guy just went, what? And I mean, I'm tear up talking about it, and I get total goosebumps talking about it, because that is the power of what a story can do. The power of a story can change a life. Now this was a fictional story, but even just the power of telling that story of what a power of a story could do can completely change the trajectory of somebody's life. So never take for granted what storytelling and getting your stories out there can do.
I can't even picture being at a book signing and having someone tell me that. Can't even picture that.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that video and I was like, oh, and especially as an artist, that's, I mean, like, I mean, as a fellow filmmaker, it hits, but that's what, like, an entrepreneur, anybody, like, the power of you sharing your story and the moments that mean something to you, whether you realized it or not, like, completely can change somebody's trajectory. And so that is what the value of you getting out there, you putting out your content on social media, as long as you're seeking to help, as long as you're seeking to enrich, like, you can't do wrong, because you never know where it's going to reach, what it's going to do. And so I always recommend, like, don't worry about a call to action. Don't worry, just seek to help, seek to enrich, because it will come back tenfold in ways you might not see. You might save that person's life, literally. You never know. So just put it out there and continue to put it out there.
Yeah. So let's focus on that for a second, right? Changing lives and things like that. Because there's this other little word out there, audience, that everybody talks about, right? And okay, this one is a bit extreme, that this story stopped this man from taking his life. But you talk about target audience. There it is. That is target audience.
Yeah.
So how do we design the story as directors and editors? How do we design the story so that it does target that audience?
So I look at it in two different ways. There's the artist side of me, and then there's the entrepreneurial side of me. Mm-hmm. And which one do you want? Do you care? Which do you start with? Because they are two very different viewpoints. Mm-hmm. So let's for the entrepreneurs who are listening, I'll start with you. Your audience is your customers. It's as simple as that. It's the people who are going to pay for you and who are going to exchange with you, who you're going to help. So when you speak to them, when you're creating content, you're speaking to the people you're going to help. So I always look at, like, it's, again, those FAQ videos. It's those all of those things to show them that you know what you're doing, that it's the case studies, it's the like, yeah, you have that trust because you are constantly in their ear. And you look at, for example, iPhones. There's no iPhone salesman. You walk into an Apple store and the person goes, cash or credit. They're not selling you. They're just taking your money. You're walked in sold because they do enough ads and they do enough marketing that you go, hell yeah, this is what I want. Tesla is the same thing. Whether you agree with Elon now politically or not, I'm not, getting into that. What I'm going into is he's built such a personal brand that, again, you walk into a Tesla store, it's not like walking into a Ford dealership or any other type of car dealership. They just go, great, pick it up. Like, I had a Tesla. You buy it online like it's Amazon, the same way you would buy anything online. It is unlike any car buying experience, but that's done through the power of storytelling and marketing. And so you're reaching your target audience by doing that. Now, and that's why, just one last point on that, is that's why I'm a big proponent of views don't matter. Because if you got 100 views and 50 of those views were buying customers, most B2B entrepreneurs couldn't handle 50 new customers, much less 10 new customers, much less 3 new customers right now. And so you don't need 1 million views. You're not trying to be Mr. Beast if you're trying to build a business through your content. Now that transitions me to the other side. As an artist, as a storyteller, on the artistic side, you are trying to reach a certain audience. You're trying to communicate a certain message. So your job is to communicate that message the best it can. Marketing's job is to get that message in front of the right people. And that's where it's different. As an artist, you're really just trying to communicate that message the best you can. And it really is the quality of communication. How good are you communicating that message? And I'm not saying you need to be pedantic and shove it down their face and be very overt about it, because if anything, that's probably not the right way to do it. But it is that amount of subtext, the amount of implication, with still being overt about it, that is right. So it's a different job to understand marketing versus the artist hat. And where you see these cult classics that were flops, it's because they weren't marketed well. They were amazing films, but didn't know how to market it well. For example, one of my favorite films is Fight Club. There's a book by the producer, Art Linson, who talks about literally the Fox executive went, I don't get the film. I don't know how to market it. We're not going to market it. Literally in the book, he talks about like how the marketing executive just went, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't like it. And it was a commercial flop, even though it is a massive cult favorite. But also the irony in it is most people don't understand the message of that film. They look at Tyler Durden as a hero. The irony is people have misinterpreted that message all the time. So all you can do as an artist is make the best art that you can and get it out there into the world.
Fight Club, I would say, definitely is a great art film.
100%.
100%. And I can see a marketing director saying, I don't know what to do with this. I can see that. And it's not the first film to be that way, because the first one that came to mind for because they're kind of different generations, but was the Rocky Horror Picture film. Now, the 3 stars in that film, how big were their careers because they did that film? Right? Great art film, hard to market. It became a cult thing.
Yeah, and look, at least in film, a lot of the time, the most artistic, the most, you could say, it's not really right. Commercial doesn't always go with critical success. Most of the time, critical success is not married with commercial success. And that's totally fine. There's a great interview with Michael Bay. He's like, I love making movies for 10-year-old boys because at the end of the day, I'm just a 10-year-old boy. I like explosions. I want to make movies that have explosions. And there's nothing wrong with that. You look at the Fast and Furious movies. They're fantastic popcorn movies. You look at a gentleman like Tom Cruise. He made a very conscious choice, 15 years ago, to stop making any art films and to solely become the biggest action hero, the biggest action star on the planet. He stopped making movies after Magnolia that were like Magnolia. And, Eyes Wide Shut. He made all of these cool art films while also being the Tom Cruise that we all know. And went, I'm just going to do the, Ethan Hunt, the big action hero type movies. And they're fun. They're amazing. But he made a conscious choice. And there's nothing wrong or right. It's you as an artist can make the art you want to see. And that's why, there's a quote from Tarantino, which is just make the film that you want to watch. And you see Tarantino style is a very specific style, and it's a Tarantino film. But he makes the movies he wants to see in the world. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And some of those might be more art house films that are, you can say, a little bit more arty and have less of a commercial appeal, but are more critical appeal versus, big Hollywood films that are much more commercial, but are less critically acclaimed. And then you're Peter Jackson and you make beautifully critically acclaimed films while also being highly commercial. Or James Cameron.
Yeah, there you go. But we all can't be James Cameron.
There are literally 5 filmmakers on this planet who can do that.
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg, winning an Oscar same year for Jurassic Park and Schindler's List. Same year at the Academy Awards.
And look at the distance between those two films.
Exactly. So there is, again, you can count them on one, if not maybe 2 hands, who can marry both worlds, much less be successful in one of them. I always compare it to sports. My brothers both were D1 college football players, and one of them was literally on a trajectory to go to the NFL before he followed the family business and became another artist. And we looked at it there are literally 32 positions, only 32 job openings to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. There's only 32. And if you really look at, and you it's a same across sports, pitching, if you wanted to be a starting player on a professional team, there's about, let's say, anywhere 30 to 40. Now there's people in the bench and whatnot. But it's about the same in the arts. There's roughly about 30 to 40 top working directors. Actors, you could say male actors and female actors, but there's about 30 to 40 top name actors. The same across all positions. And so if you're going to be a top artist, just know that that's the degree of competition you're going into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hence why you have also in business the Fortune 100 companies.
There it is, right? There's only a few of those companies available.
No.
But how do you, on the other hand, for you and I, how do we support those businesses in a way that we get exactly what we need out of it, not just what they want us to have?
And that's where I always go back to. It's how do you help make you money? How do we help make you money? If you keep making money and you can see how I help make you money, you're going to keep paying me. Same reason why, it's health, wealth, and relationships. That's why people pay money. Health, wealth, and relationships. Those 3 things. You're either going to help them make more money, You're going to help build your relationship better, or you're going to help with your health. And so us in the business to business space, it's like you're going to help make that company more money, and you're going to get rewarded for that by giving money. Or referrals or this or that. Like it could be, notoriety. Like I've worked with bigger brands and have gotten paid less, but now I have them on my CV. Like I say, I've worked with blah, 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 even though they technically paid me less than my rate, which, whatever. That helped me close 6 other clients because of it. So I knew it was a strategic move.
Something else to be thought about. But we will need to actually save that strategic rate for another conversation because we're running out of time. So best ways to get a hold of you and work with you.
Well, you'll have the link in the show notes and the description if you want to take a call with me. Totally free. How I help entrepreneurs, again, help build their personal brand through content. We do video podcasts, digital shows, and content creation. Totally free. I love just to, again, help. I've very much learned that the more people I help, I will eventually make more money by just helping more people. That's why I love being on these podcasts and just helping as many people as I can. Outside of that, LinkedIn is great. Jake Isham, really easy. Jake is ham. Otherwise, you can just search my name pretty much on any social media, anywhere. You'll see probably different pages between the business, photography, filmmaking, and reach out. But always happy to chat, talk shop, and if you want help building your personal brand and getting out there, see what I can do.
All right. And best link to contact you?
Say that one more time.
Best link to contact you?
LinkedIn, and it's a little bit longer, so I don't have it optimized yet. So, but my landing page is digitalshow.creativemindsofficial.com.
All right. Thanks, Jake. It's been great having you, and look forward to having you back again to continue the conversation. So
yeah, looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and connect with Jake if you want to build your brand up and reach the optimal people so that it builds your brand to its heights. All right. Talk to you, everybody, later. Bye for now.